Hello everyone, I'm Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ IAS English. In our today's video, we'll try to understand why is Article 124 in news currently, and all that credit goes to the Union Cabinet because yesterday the Union Cabinet gave its approval to increase the sanction strength of the judges in the Supreme Court of India, which presently is 34. Now this number of 34 judges in the Supreme Court includes the Chief Justice of India. Now the government is proposing to increase the sanction strength from 34 to 38. That is, an increase will happen of 4 number of judges. Now to bring this reform, the government plans to bring a bill in the next session of the parliament, and after passage of this bill, the sanction strength of the Supreme Court judges would increase by 4. So this topic becomes very important from our exams perspective, and as a result, we are going to understand what is the process following which you can increase the size of the sanction strength of the Supreme Court judges. And before ending our today's discussion, we'll also try to understand what are the qualifications for a person to be appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court. Right now, as this topic is important, you can go to a Telegram channel called as ATS Live to download the notes which I will be using in the today's session. And in case you're downloading the notes, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well for future such updates. Okay. Now let us start by understanding or by taking at a look to the Constitution of India. What does Constitution of India says about this process? For that, we need to refer to Article 124 of the Indian Constitution. This article talks about establishment and constitution of the Supreme Court. It says that there shall be a Supreme Court of India which would consist of a Chief Justice of India, and until Parliament by law prescribes a larger number, the sanction strength of the judges of the Supreme Court would be 7 other judges. So originally, as per Article 124(1) of the Indian Constitution, the strength of Supreme Court included a Chief Justice of India. In addition to that, there would be 7 other judges in the Supreme Court. But here, if you follow this article, it also states that the parliament has the power by passing a law to prescribe a larger number of judges, and as a result, this strength has been increased multiple times through an act passed in the Indian Parliament. Now, for the first time, this Parliament of India in 1956 enacted the Supreme Court Number of Judges Act, and this act said, as against the original constitution, the maximum number of judges in the Supreme Court would go from 7 to 10 number of judges. So going forward, whenever I talk about a number of judges, this would automatically exclude the Chief Justice of India, because originally the Constitution of India says that the Supreme Court would consist of 1 Chief Justice and other number of judges as Parliament by law prescribes. So this law stated that in Indian Supreme Court of India, there would be a Chief Justice of India and 10 other judges. This was in 1956. Now, in the decades of 1960s and 70s, this act was amended again twice by the Indian Parliament. First, it was done in 1916 when the sanction strength of judges was increased from 10 to 13, excluding the Chief Justice of India, and again in 1977, the sanction strength increased from 13 to 17, excluding the Chief Justice of India. But there was a working restriction imposed on Supreme Court of India. Then government imposed that the working strength of the Supreme Court up till 1979 would consist of 15 judges, and only after a request was made by then Chief Justice of India in 1979, the government allowed the Supreme Court to function on its sanction strength of 17 other judges. Right? Now let us try to understand what happened in the decades of 1980s and after that. Now in 1986 particularly, the original act of the parliament, that is the Supreme Court Number of Judges Act of 1956, was amended again to increase the sanction strength of judges in the Supreme Court from 17 to 25, again excluding the Chief Justice of India. And subsequently in 2008 also, this act was again amended by the Parliament by increasing the strength of Supreme Court judges from 25 to 30, again excluding the Chief Justice of India. And for the last time this number was increased, it happened in 2019 when the Parliament of India again amended the original 1956 Act to provide for increase in strength from 30 to 33 judges, again excluding the Chief Justice of India. So the last amendment which was done happened more than 6 years ago in 2019, and hence it brings my attention to the fact why now in 2026 there is, or there will be an increase in number of judges. There must be some reason, right? And there is a very good reason behind it. Why the government has approved this increase in number of strength after a 6-year gap. Now, you need to understand, for the past few years, the persistent problem that the Indian judiciary, including the Supreme Court of India, is facing is increasing in the pendency of cases. I don't know how many of you have seen a very popular Hindi movie called as Damini, where Sunny Deol's character in that movie, who's a lawyer, makes a dialogue, Tarikh pe Tarikh, Tarikh pe Tarikh. This dialogue actually became a symbol of what was wrong with Indian judiciary, that is, increase in number of pendency of cases. And to solve this pendency of cases, particularly with respect to Supreme Court, the government is now allowing for appointment of 4 additional judges, which will help the Supreme Court to tide over this crisis of pendency which is plaguing the court, especially since COVID-19 pandemic. Because during COVID-19 pandemic, e-filing or online filing of cases was allowed, and this has increased the number of inflow of cases which are now being filed in the Supreme Court of India. Presently, the Supreme Court of India has pendency of more than 92,000 cases, and if left unattended, this number in very near future might also increase beyond the figure of 1 lakh. Now, why am I saying this number might increase over 1 lakh in near future? There is a very good possibility, because as we are entering into summer months, the Supreme Court would go into vacation, and only limited number of benches called as vacation benches would function at this time. So naturally, cases would keep coming on in the Supreme Court, but the ability of the Supreme Court to dispose of these cases will be somewhat not as good as it would have been in normal times because of vacation of judges, right? So to allow for that, the government is now planning to increase the number of judges by 4, from 34 including the Chief Justice of India to 38 again including the Chief Justice of India. So to summarize this discussion, the Article 124 of the Indian Constitution originally provided for a Chief Justice and 7 other judges of Supreme Court, but it also added a fact that a parliament by a law can prescribe for larger amount of judges, and therefore Parliament in 1956 passed this law, which has been amended multiple number of times to increase the strength of the Supreme Court from time to time, right? Before we move on to a practice question, there is also other facts that we need to understand. First of all, what happens now? After this act is amended again by the Parliament in the next session, the Supreme Court Collegium would start recommending the names of judges which the President needs to appoint, right? Because the process of appointment, which again is regulated by Article 124 of the Constitution, says that the President can make the appointment, but only after the consultation with the senior judges of Supreme Court, which by the way of convention means the Supreme Court Collegium, which presently includes the Chief Justice of India and 4 other senior judges of the Supreme Court of India, right? Now, who all are able or who all are qualified to become a Supreme Court judge? This also is talked about in the Article 124 of the Constitution. As per Article 124 of the Constitution, a person who will be appointed by the President as a judge of the Supreme Court needs to have certain qualification. First of all, he or she should definitely be a citizen of India. In addition to that, they can be a judge of High Court for a period of 5 years at least. Or, the word here is or. Please remember, if the word here is or, means that a person needs to fulfill either one of these 3 conditions, not all of these 3 at the same time. Had this word been and instead of or, this would have meant all these 3 conditions needs to be fulfilled. But as I said, the word here is or. So please remember the first condition that any person needs to be fulfilled, in addition to being a citizen of India, that they need to be a judge of High Court or other High Courts in India for at least a period of 5 years. Otherwise, they can also be an advocate to High Court where they have practiced for at least 10 years in succession, right? And the third criteria here is, in the eyes of President, if a person is a distinguished jurist, then they have the ability to be appointed as a judge of Supreme Court in addition to being the citizen of India. Please remember, this qualification of the ability of a distinguished jurist to be appointed as a judge of Supreme Court is not present when it comes to appointment process for the judge of a High Court in India. Right? So this is what Article 124 talks about. It talks about the strength of judges, it talks about the appointment process, and most importantly, it talks about the qualification of a judge who wants to become a judge of the Supreme Court of India, right? Now, before we move on to a practice question, which is also previous year question of UPSC, there is a very important announcement. The topic that I covered, that is Supreme Court of India, is a very important part of Indian judiciary, which you cover in your polity classes. In addition to polity, there are three other important subjects for UPSC, that is history, geography and economy. So history, geography, economy and polity, without covering these four subjects, you can't think of clearing UPSC exam. In addition to that, there are other smaller subjects also which can't be ignored at any cost, like social justice and society, ethics, essays, international relations, internal security, disaster management, etc. You would cover each and every subject that I mentioned right now in your resolution batches. Resolution batches, you don't just get live classes and recorded lectures, but you're also provided with one-to-one mentorship support, which helps you cover all your doubts. Similarly, you're given access to both prelims and mains test series, which you can use to refine your understanding and cover all your doubts in a very structured manner. The best part about our resolution batches, if you take admissions in diamond batches, the best of all batches, you're going to get an option that if you clear your prelims, whenever you attempt it, your entire course fees will be refunded back to you. Yes, this is the benefit of StudyIQ, because we trust in our ability of students to qualify, and therefore we incentivize students to clear the prelims exam. Now, please remember, these batches are offered separately for students who are looking to prepare either in 2024 or in 2025. Please remember, before making the payment, if you apply the code ATS Live, you are going to get maximum discounts on all the courses, be it a resolution batch course or an optional course, right? Now, before ending our today's discussion, this is the question that I want you all to solve. This came in UPSC 2014. The power to increase the number of judges in the Supreme Court is vested in which of these four authorities? Please do let me know the correct answers in the comments. This is not at all a difficult question if you have followed the discussion diligently. Do let me know the correct answer, and the ones who answer it correctly would get a thumbs up from my side. And before we end up, this is where you'd find the notes, the Telegram channel. It is called as ATS Live. If you have difficulties in locating it, you can obviously scan the QR code. You'll find the channel. So this is all from my side for today. Please have a very good night. We'll see each other again soon.